And Daniel chapter 3 is the story about the king and the three boys. So in Daniel chapter 3, there's a king named Nebuchadnezzar, and he made a golden image. He gathers all the governors, the rulers, judges together to worship this golden image. But he makes a command. He says that by the sound of the music, when the music starts, they are to bow down and worship this golden image. And he said that if they don't, they will be cast into a burning fiery furnace. So when the music started, they fell down and worshiped the golden image. And then some man went to go tell the king Nebuchadnezzar that there was three boys by the name of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that they did not bow down to worship the golden image. So then the king gets angry, and he asked the boys if it was true that they didn't bow down. And the king asked the boys, "Who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" And then in verse 17, he tells the boys, "If it be so, our God." In verse 17, the boy responds to the king, "If it be so, our God whom we serve is about to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king." And then in verse 18, "But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your God, nor worship the golden image." So the king, he got angry, and he commanded to turn up the heat 7 times hotter, and commanded for the three boys to be cast into the burning furnace. And then the man that was taking the boys to throw them in there, they actually burned themselves of how hot it was. Didn't the boys that would take the man that was taking the boys, they burned themselves, and they were just standing in front of it. They weren't even inside or anything. That's how hot it was. So they ended up casting the three boys into the fiery furnace, and they fell in there. They fell down. Then the king asked his men, "Did we not cast 3 boys into the fire?" The man answered, "Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." So they see that there is 4 people in the fire. They only threw 3 boys, but they see a 4th person in there. So they're confused. And verse 26, the king took a closer look and saw the 3 boys and said to them, "You, servants of the Most High God, come forth and come here." And the boys came out. So the king was so surprised. He was confused, like, where did this 4th person come from? So he saw that these boys were not hurt, they were not burned up or nothing. So he called them out and said, "Come out." And they did. The governors, judges, and everyone who was there saw what happened, and they saw that these boys, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head sing, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of the fire had passed on them. So these boys did not die, they did not burn, they didn't smell like smoke, they didn't have nothing burnt, no powder of, no smoke, no nothing. And verse 28, the king said to the 3 boys, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yield their bodies, that they may not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Verse 29. Therefore, I make a decree that every person, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Verse 30. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So did you see how God did deliver them? The fourth person that was in the fiery burning furnace was God. He was in there with them. He saved their lives. He spared their lives. These three boys had had faith in God, and they were very bold. They told the king that they were not going to serve the golden image that he created. They told him that they were not going to serve no other gods. They told him, like, hey, we're just not going to follow that rule that goes against our faith. Even though they were threatened and were thrown in there in the fire, God came through and he saved them. He protected them. They did not burn up. They didn't smell like smoke. They didn't, their clothes was not burnt. They made it. God was there with them. And the king witnessed it with his own eyes, the fourth person that was in there. And they said, he looks like the Son of God. And they were right. It was God. He was there with them. I can't imagine how they felt, the fear that they felt, even though they were being bold. I can't imagine what was going through their minds when they were going to be thrown in there. This story is one of my favorite stories, because these boys were so bold, and they had strong faith in God, and they said that God would deliver us from you. And then they said, and even if he doesn't, we're still not going to change our mind. Meaning, no matter what happens, we're not going to serve no other God, the image, nobody else but God. And because of the boldness, their faith in God delivering them, the king made a decree, he made a rule that nobody should come against their God, meaning Jesus Christ. And then not only that, the king promoted them. So I hope that this word encourages you, and that you continue to walk by faith, not by sight, and that you will be bold and keep your faith in God always. Always, always, always. Know that God is always there. Always. No matter what challenges you're facing in your life, God is always there. So I encourage you to read the book of Daniel, chapter 3. Read the whole entire thing, verse by verse. Read it. I only read a couple of the verses because the story is pretty long. But yeah, I just hope that this word encouraged you, and it gives you encouragement to, like, if God can do it for those three boys, he can do it for you. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. Remember that God is always there. You just need to call unto him and have faith, and God will show up. And one more thing, give all glory to God, and remember that Jesus is King.